So this is my first time taking this thing out after I installed the CB Performance fuel injection system, and it's like night and day. I knew it felt more powerful on the road. Off-road, it's a whole new animal. You know, I've driven some side-by-sides before, and it's just instant torque, instant power in those, and this is exactly how this thing feels. I put my foot down no matter where I'm at, climbing up a hill, going downhill, level cruising, and it just takes off. You know? I barely have my foot on the gas when I'm sitting there bouncing around, and it's just, you know, it just feels, you know, like a, I don't know, it feels like a fuel injected car. Honestly, that's just how it feels. I haven't driven too many other vehicles like regular cars or anything like that off-road, but you know, just driving this with carburetors for so many years, and you know, I'd be climbing up hills and stuff, and if I didn't have my foot, you know, mashed on the throttle trying to climb up, it was the dog, you know. Even with my vent extensions that I had in the carburetors, you know, I was just trying to work through and, you know, adjust that type of thing, and you know, just having a lot of like flooding when I was going up hills, and you know, that helped a little bit. But this, you know, this obviously is just night and day, like I said. So I kind of want to walk you guys around, just show you real quick some of the things that I did to this. All right, so here it is installed. Obviously I got a different look for my car right now. I took off my roof rack, took off my high lift jack, and just kind of going with a little bit different look right now, and kind of trying to feel out the different rattles and cracks and things like that I hear, trying to determine, you know, what everything is. But anyway, that's besides the point. Here it is, all installed. You know, these are the throttle bodies. Fuel injectors are right there, right up against the fan shroud. You know, nice and tight, nice and clean. Same over there. And I went with the crank trigger instead of a regular distributor. Obviously, an electronic fuel pump. And here's my fuel pressure regulator mounted back here. I just did a couple nut zerts or thread inserts, whatever you want to call them, into the firewall, and then just mounted the bracket that way. Nice and clean. You know, when you're installing it, make sure you don't mix up these two sensors. One's intake air temp and one's head temp, and they look almost identical except for the white white wire wrap, heat wrap going to it. And when you're setting up your throttle linkage, you know, make sure everything's nice and tight. I had trouble with these set screws, getting those nice and tight, but if you get the right size, and make sure these are pushed all the way in against the bracket, they're going to bottom out right about here. It kind of flattens out, so it butts up against the end of this linkage. So make sure you get your set screw on this bar and not just going straight through, and make sure it's nice and tight, because I had this thing going loose for a while and it wasn't tight enough, so every time I would hit the throttle it would kind of come out of sync. Obviously I got my external oil cooler up here, some nice AM lines, Evil Energy. They work great, you know. Obviously just seeping a little bit, just normal seepage. No issues there. So this is one thing I would say that you need to do, or that I recommend that you do before you install this. I would install the ECU and route all your wiring, all your hoses for your vacuum, pressure, and everything like that before you install the throttle bodies and the manifolds. It's just going to make it so much easier, and you're going to know where all your wires are going, make sure they're not going to get caught in anything. Make sure you have all the sensors on the appropriate side. It tells you the instructions, you know, what you need on the 1-2 side and what you need on the 3-4 side. So route that stuff first before you install it. I had the engine in here. You know, I just took off my old carburetors, took off my fan shroud, alternator obviously, and I had to take this off to actually lift up the fan shroud over the, because I got a stock doghouse oil cooler in the back as well. So I'd get the fan shroud up over that, and in order to do that, I'd take my oil cooler off. Oh, and I had to take off my breather because it was right in the way too of getting the fan shroud up and out of the way as well. And you're going to want the fan shroud off anyway if you're going to be running a intake air controller, because you're going to have to mount it to the back of the fan shroud, which is where I have it right here. It just tells you the instructions to do it and put it right there, and that seemed like the best place to put it. So, and it said you can run either a unifilter for this hose, or you can just run a hose to your intake, and that's what I did. So that just has excess vacuum pressure, and it just goes right back into your intake, and that seems to work pretty well. What else? You know, that's the biggest thing. And you know, if you're gonna run the space saver throttle body, I guess not the throttle body, the injector, the space saver going directly into your intake manifold, I would say, yeah, you got to build your fuel injectors, you know, on your intake manifold, install the throttle body on there, and then before you actually, you know, cinch everything down, you gotta, that's why I say put the wires in first, because then you got to put the wires in hooked up to the fuel injectors before you cinch everything down, because you want to make sure that that has good clearance, and mine barely does. It's right up against it, but you know, it's there nice and tight, but it's not, you know, still has a good connection and everything. And, you know, make sure. So this is what it looks like actually installed. You know, that this thing was a little tricky to figure out with the directions if you haven't seen it before, but that's how it is. You know, I just, when I installed it, you know, obviously I installed the manifold, and I installed the injectors, and then you know, once I put the throttle body on, and then I could put that stud through and then put the nuts on, and I just put a little bit of pressure on here, got this bracket nice and level, and then cinch this top nut down, and it you know, holds nice and tight, no leaks or anything like that. Also, something they don't tell you in the instructions is you're supposed to get some 3/8 hard line to run your feed and return fuel lines, and I guess you're supposed to run them through the body, which I didn't know that, and I was just running the regular 3/8 hose from my fuel pump, and then I ran out. You know, I was only able to get to the 1-2 side, you know, through the 1-2 to the 3-4. This is about as far as I could get, and then I ran out of fuel line, so I had to go buy some more. And then that's when I talked to CB, and they're like, oh yeah, you need to buy the 1/2 inch or the 3/8 hard lines to go feed and return. But you know, that's what I did. But I just ran the regular fuel hose on the inside. You know, I just have a zip tie right now, you know, it's not permanent, and then I just have a little line bracket right there, and same on the other side for the return, going through the firewall on the front and back. But it seems to work fine for now. I'll probably eventually, you know, maybe either get the hard line or just run some nice AN lines through there just to keep it nice and solid. But yep, yeah, it's running great, lots of power. You know, you'll see in the video, and I put my foot down when I was climbing up a hill, and it just left. It just shot right up the hill like it was nothing. And you know, that's definitely something I wasn't used to. Definitely a lot of, you know, got all the power all the time, you know, lots, you know, good RPM band for the throttle too, and the power. You know, I didn't really look at, you know, how much, you know, where my power was, but I've taken this thing on the street, taken it up to 5,500 RPMs, and it felt like it still had more to give. So it's definitely getting good use out of the engine with this fuel injection kit, so I definitely recommend it for anybody looking to just get more consistent power and better economy out of your, although you probably won't get better fuel economy because your foot's going to be mashed to the ground, but who cares? You're having fun, right? So yeah, that's where I'm at. And yeah, thanks for watching, and see y'all later.